But the thing is, everyone's talking about Salafis right now in the West. You switch on TV, you see an angry mob attacking an American embassy, and you hear the host or the reporter say, it's the Salafis who are responsible for this, and they probably are. I'm Bobby Ghosh, editor-at-large at Time magazine, and my story this week is about the Salafis, a movement within Islam that has gotten a lot of attention in the last couple of weeks with the violence that we've seen sparked by the anti-Islam video. The Salafists were definitely in the vanguard of these protests. They were joined by many other groups ranging from soccer hooligans in Egypt to terrorist groups with RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades, who attacked the compound of the American consulate in Benghazi. They're the ones who rallied quickest to these embassies. They're the ones who were loudest and who were sort of pushing for some sort of action. What they are is a group that tries to live life as it was lived by the Prophet Muhammad and his closest followers 1400 years ago. They tend to be more fundamental than the fundamentalists. The thing to understand is that not all Salafis are violent. The vast majority of them are not. And most of their violence is sort of fists and sticks rather than people blowing themselves up. But the ideology allows for violence. It gives violence a legitimacy, almost a religious legitimacy, and that is what makes the group dangerous. A generation ago, the Salafis were a very small movement within Islam. Very few people outside of Saudi Arabia paid them any attention at all. For a long time, they were seen as oddballs. But as Saudi Arabia began to get wealthier with the oil wealth in the 70s, a lot of Saudi businesses, Saudi wealthy families, sometimes the Saudi state itself, began to promote Salafi Islam, and that put money into the hands of people that were formerly regarded as oddballs. So instead of standing outside a mosque and handing out pamphlets, they were now suddenly building their own mosque, and not just any mosque, because they had all this oil money. They were building the biggest mosque in town. Now, after the Arab Spring, what you have is the rise of Salafi politics. Salafis, until fairly recently, regarded politics, democracy, elections as haram, as something that they didn't want anything to do with, as something that was against Islam. But once they had the opportunity to stand for elections, they suddenly said, "Oh, it's all right. We can stand for elections," and they became, certainly in Egypt, quite a significant force. They won a large number of seats in the election. The parliament has since been dissolved, but they won a lot of seats, and that gave everybody in the Middle East a bit of a scare. In the West, there's the greatest alarm is whether the Salafis represent a threat to the West. But actually, the people who are most alarmed by Salafis are other Muslims, because they're challenging the Muslim way of life. These are people who thrive on the sense of being oppressed, and the sense of having the world against them. That is the root of their strength. But it's also, at the end of the day, it's also the seed of their failure, because you cannot expand greatly as a group if all you have to offer is a sense that the world is against you. And I suspect, as a result, the Salafis will never really be able to get beyond a small extremist fringe in any of these societies.